Grade A buffoonery.
I'm not perfect, I know it, but I don't deserve this. Put me back in my cage, it's where I'll be fine. Mistakes as an ocean, the pain does take its portion. Don't empty out this wrath I'm in, cause I'm not sure if I can swim.
Breaker Crunchers, it's Friday night in Phoenix, Arizona. My name is Lance, and with me is Sam, the movie mechanic, and Max, I don't care who says Batman versus Superman's a bad movie. We are the Couch Crunchers. We are the Couch Crunchers, and who liked our new intro? That was pretty fun, right?
Yeah, it was great.
Grade A buffoonery.
I know, he's not even on the show anymore, and I can't get
Jay's not even on the show.
Dude, we've been doing that for a long time. I will tell you guys something. So I was trying to get myself geared up for Justice League coming out next week. And I wanted to re-listen to what we had to say about it back in the day. Well, that was our 13th episode when we reviewed it. And the grade A buffoonery thing was already on back then. So we've been doing that a long time.
And how many episodes are we at now? 190?
No, we're not quite that high. I think this is 140, 139, something like that.
Oh,
but it's a lot more than 13.
That's awesome. Well, in case you did not hear, we are the Couch Crunchers. Tonight we are going to talk about Cherry, the new Apple TV original, where Sam is the most recent viewing of that movie. Very recent, to be exact.
Yeah, very recent. Borderline, still happening.
But before we get into that, I want to know what you guys have been watching. What shows and movies do you want our listeners to get on your bandwagon to ensure no cancellation? Maxie?
Since Sam is literally still watching the movie, Sam, finish watching. I'll go first.
Okay.
So I've been watching a lot of stuff lately, and some of it's noteworthy, some of it's not. I'm going to go ahead and start off with the thing that I was surprised with this week that I absolutely loved, and I'm not even joking. On Hulu, there is a new movie with Mel
Gibson.
Mel Gibson, yeah, and then I'm blanking on the actual main character, the main actor. I was going to say Frank Grillo, but that's his character on Winter Soldier. Anyways, it's called Boss Level, is the name of the movie, and it's freaking hilarious and so much fun. If you guys have a Hulu account, please
Can I
check
tell
it
you
out.
something? His real name is Frank Grillo.
Oh, that is his name. Okay.
Wait, did you say that was the character name from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
For some reason I did, yeah, because it sounds like a comic book character villain's
I was
name.
like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right.
What is his name in the...
Crossbones.
Well, Crossbones is but he's got a real name. Anyway, that doesn't matter. So it's Frank Grillo. I knew the name Frank Grillo made sense somewhere. Anyway, he's the main actor, and it's
Rumlow.
really...
They call him Rumlow in Winter Soldier.
Rumlow.
Rock Rumlow.
Okay. So Frank Grillo's actually got some similarities there. Not really, but anyway, it was really fun. It's dumb in the best way. It's a movie that I'm definitely open to rewatching. We're not planning on reviewing it on Couch Crunchers, but I'd probably give it a 4 out of 5. It's just dumb fun. It's a time loop movie. It's not a lot of substance, but it's hilarious.
A time loop movie like Groundhog's Day or Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Kind of like, yeah, exactly like that. And actually what made it really fun is it's got like these video game-ish parallels. That's kind of the idea of Boss Level. It's talking, it's all about him respawning and he's continuing to do the level over and over again. And it's about basically this one guy who's reliving the same day every day, but he's got a ton of assassins out to kill him. And what I'm finding very fascinating about this is there's a game called Deathloop coming out in May that is that exact premise. You're reliving the same day over and over. you're an assassin trying to like kill some guy. Now, that's not exactly the premise of Boss Level. He's not an assassin, but he's got a bunch of people out to kill him, and he's trying to survive. And it's very entertaining. Very, very entertaining. Hour and a half, real quick watch. I don't even know that I saw a trailer for it ever. I just kind of logged into my Hulu late last week, and I was like, oh, new movie's out on Hulu. And I had time Monday night, and I watched it. It's really good. Other than that, I've also been rewatching Daredevil season 1. I just, like I said, I re-listened to the podcast that we did on Justice League. Well, during that episode, we reviewed Justice League and the first season of The Punisher, which is crazy to me that we were able to review 2 things like that in an hour and a half, because now we review one movie and it takes us an hour and a half to 2 hours. So it just goes to show like how much deeper.
A whole lot of talking points when it came to Justice League. Except this movie sucked.
Yeah, but we were that's what I'm disappointed in myself for. We were way too positive on it, Lance.
Are you serious?
Yeah, if you go back and listen to it, we weren't totally positive. We had a lot of negative to say, but you said that you liked it more than you said it was your favorite DC EU movie.
No way.
Now, you did preface that by saying none of them were very good. Oh, you said it was after Wonder Woman. Sorry. You said it was your second favorite after Wonder Woman.
I think I just said that to get under your skin.
No, I really didn't care. But
because it's much worse than Batman versus Superman.
I agree. And it was interesting because we had a lot of negative things to say about it. And anyway, but in that same episode, we reviewed The Punisher. And as we were talking about The Punisher, we talked, of course, about his introduction in Daredevil season 2. And it just gave me the inkling to rewatch Daredevil. So I threw it on while I was working yesterday, and I got through about 7 episodes because I watched it last night too. It's such a good show, man. There's a lot of nuggets from that first season of Daredevil that I forgot about. So that's kind of what I've been up to. I know there's more
because I was scouring all my streaming apps the last couple days trying to find something to watch that Anna wouldn't want to watch. Mm-hmm. And so I've just been watching documentaries. So
okay, so I'm going to give you one more thing that I've been watching, and you choose whether or not you want to watch it. But I've talked about it on the show several times because when it first started coming out, I was watching it every week. And that is Raised by Wolves. It's on HBO Max. It's a creation from Ridley Scott. It's kind of got Alien vibes. So if you enjoy the Alien series, you might enjoy this. But I was watching it week by week as it came out. I got 5 or 6 episodes in, and I just lost interest. Well, this last week, I finally decided, let's finish those last 3 episodes. And it was a slog, man. I could only get through 1 episode a day, and I lost interest in it. So it's not really a recommendation of something to watch. And Lance, your camera is wigging out.
Oh, I'm messing with the settings right now.
Oh, that's you. Okay. I was like, it keeps zooming in on you.
Yeah. See.
So if you enjoy Alien and like the lore behind that, you might enjoy Raised by Wolves. But I tell you what, it started to drag, and I'm not that into it. So that's kind of like my what I'm watching, don't watch. Raised by Wolves, not really worth the time.
My turn.
I don't remember you ever talking about that show.
I talked about it like 4 weeks in a row, but it was like back in September of last year.
You and I talk so much that I have like a cachet that dumps every couple months.
It's okay, dude. Every time Sam talks about anime, I don't remember unless it's One Piece what he's talking about.
That's fair.
Sam's like, or Triple D Dodgeball every Wednesday night.
I remember Triple D. Triple D is fun.
Oh, hey, did you guys see the spot that we put up?
No.
Oh, you got to go to the Triple D Dodgeball page and check out the spot that we put up for there. So there's these AI these AI apps that you can put a photo on, and then it will animate the face to a song. And we did one of those. It's pretty good. Let me see if I can find it for you.
Football does rule.
Is it the one with your face?
Atari's, baby.
Yeah.
Hey, that was pretty funny. I did see that then. Yeah, I liked that.
Is your sister a Atari's fan? Sam?
What? Why? What'd you say?
Stan Demon's High School Football Rules.
Dude, that's from Bill and Ted's.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Bill, but the Ataris also has a. I forgot that it was in Bill and Ted. The Ataris also has a song. I love the Ataris. See my shirt, Maxie?
Oh yeah. You wore that for Halloween.
Yeah, it's Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, I know.
What are we doing here?
Yeah,
Sam.
All right, so let's talk about what I
doesn't
like.
really work well on radio.
Yeah, let me talk about what I'm watching. So, started a show called Tribes of Europa on Netflix. I thought it was going to be like a space travel thing because Europa is one of the moons of Jupiter, but it wasn't. It meant Europe, not Europa, not the moon. It's actually just Europe, and it's kind of like society has broken down. Everyone's now back into tribes, and they're all fighting for survival. And there's this one technically or technologically super advanced society they call Atlanteans, and one of them crash lands in this forest where the Germanic tribes are. One of them's called the Origines, and it's kind of violent. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of like a mix of, that's the one.
I could see how you thought that was about Europa, the planet.
Yeah. And
absolutely. It looks like,
and that cube looking thing is actually not enormous. It's actually just a little thing that he carries with him. Okay. And then it was intriguing, but I was very tired. So I only got about 45 minutes into the first episode before I call it a night. And I haven't been back, but I do plan on watching more because it was pretty intriguing. But the problem is I stumbled across something that is very, very good and is captured my attention on my free time, which is CW's Superman and Lois. And
oh yeah, you brought that up in the chat.
It's very good. I was like, come on, another Smallville ripoff. Not that there's been a ton of them, but another CW DC show. Like, is it really going to give us anything good? And honestly, I was really skeptical because it takes place after Superman and Lois are married and have teenagers. So they're in their mid to late 40s, I guess, and they have teenagers in high school, twin boys, and something happens. What's that?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't comic book history that Superman could not get Lois pregnant?
Well, this ain't comic book history, bro. This is CW history.
Go for
and
it.
They have two kids. One of them is like an athlete, star football player in Metropolis. The other one is kind of a video gamer, emo kid who's really struggles to fit in.
Oh, so it's Max and I.
Sure.
And then they end up in Smallville for Martha Kent's funeral, and they're in the barn. The boys are in the barn, and they're horsing around to impress a girl, and something bad happens, and a bunch of like metal pipes that are in the barn fall on top of the boys, and the boys both come out unscathed.
Shock and awe.
But Superman didn't think either of them had any powers, and so in the first episode, you have to figure out who's the one with powers, and it kind of leans you one way, but then it hits you with the okie doke, and it was actually the other one.
Typical CW fashion.
And
like, I know who it is, and then 2 seconds until the end shows you something.
Okie doke, yeah, it hits you with the do-si-do. But even with the kind of teen angst, you can't understand me. You don't know what I'm going through. You're awful dad. You're awful mom. You don't know what I'm going through. Even with that stuff, it's still pretty good.
That's good to know.
and it's probably worth your time. I'm 3 episodes in. There's a lot. There's not like a ton going on, but there are definitely more moving parts than you might suspect. So you have Superman is fighting. There's like 3 things that he's dealing with. So he's got being a dad. He's got being Clark Kent looking for a job and keeping the farm going. And then he's got his Supermaning job, which has a subpart where he's dealing with his father-in-law, who's a general. And then he's also dealing with a superpowered threat that is constantly wreaking havoc. And then you've got Lois, and she has a handful of things that she's doing. So she's got her mothering, she's got her household, she's got her reporting that she's doing. She's got a guy that she's investigating. And then you got the boys, and they each have a couple of things that they're doing, sports and girls, and trying to figure out each other. And so there's a lot of levels, a lot of entry points into the show, I would say. So depending on where you're at in life, I'm sure there's an easy in to the show. And it's more complex and layered. And so far, it's been interesting to see the teenagers kind of come into their own, and Clark's really the most interesting character, which is rare for like a Superman-centric show. And his relationship with Lois is very interesting, but his relationship with his boys even more so. And so if you're a dad of boys, I mean, this is going to be right up your alley. But if you're a dad, period, it's going to scratch a lot of those emotional feels that you're familiar with. So Superman and Lois, I'm going to give a high recommendation. Please check it out. There's 3 episodes available on CW. It's on Tuesday nights if you want to catch it as it airs. Tuesday nights at 8, but they always post the episodes right after.
On a CW app or what?
On CW app or on CW.com or on demand.
So I used to really like the CW stuff, but in the recent years, I've gotten way less interested. Do you like traditionally the CW stuff, Sam?
I don't catch a lot of it. So I've started almost all of their series and been really bored with them pretty soon.
Yeah.
I liked Arrow. I got a season and a half into Arrow, and then I was like, it's not really my thing. I watched all of Smallville. And Smallville I thought was really good, except for
I love Smallville.
Their special effects budget wasn't big enough. So when they do the Superman Doomsday fight in one of the later seasons, it happens off screen. And I was really disappointed by that.
Well, and Doomsday looked awful.
Yeah.
He looked so bad. But it was a fun show. I love Smallville.
Yeah,
Smallville's good.
I own all of them. I bought them on DVD. I think Max at one point borrowed them, didn't you?
I did. That's how I finished the show. I had seen through season 5 maybe, and then you lent me the other DVDs, and I stayed up like every night for a month just finishing the last 4 seasons because it's a lot to get through. I mean, 22, 23 episodes.
10 seasons?
It's 10 seasons, and they're all like 20 plus episodes of 45 minutes.
Yeah. My favorite episode is when Erica Durance is in the Stars and Stripes bikini.
Yeah.
That's your favorite episode?
Favorite.
Okay.
I watch it muted.
For the content.
It's on mute, yeah. It's for the culture. It's not the content, it's the culture. He's a man of culture.
Patriotic.
No, I used to have the biggest crush on the actress that played Chloe, and boy was
she turned out to be a cuckoo pants.
Was
okay.
I wrong? My judgment was wrong on that one.
You just wanted to be part of a sex cult, Lance.
Who doesn't? Well, dude, that's a pretty. I'm kidding. Who would have thought that a CW show would get such high praise from Sam? And that's great. Definitely, your stamp of approval has me way more interested. I've been burned.
I'll tell you. I made a season and a half into Arrow before I lost interest. I made it an episode and a half into Flash before I lost interest. I made it. I haven't even touched League of Extraordinary Tomorrows or whatever it's called. And I watched
Now I can't even
Batwoman.
think of what the name is.
It's Legends of Tomorrow, but I love it.
I watched Batwoman because Corbin really insisted that I watch it, and oh my gosh, it was so
You
bad.
can't
so
take
awful.
Corbin's recommendation for. I love Corbin to death, but
It was so
Corbin
bad.
likes crappy things.
No, he
Yeah,
wanted
I
us to
haven't-
watch it. He wanted us to watch it for the podcast, but it was rough, dude. It was so rough.
Did you finish it?
No, man. I watched 2 episodes and I was like, I just don't have enough time left in my life to devote to this.
Yeah.
But Superman and Lois is pretty dang good. So if you've got at least the first 3 episodes, I've enjoyed, and hopefully
I'll check it out.
they keep delivering some good stuff.
CW just does a really good job at disappointing me when it comes to those CW shows or the DC shows, because the first season is actually pretty decent, and then they never know how to follow it up. So I loved the first season of Flash. I loved the first season of Arrow, and I loved the first season of Legends of Tomorrow when they had Rip. What's his name, Max? Rip Thorne or
Rip
the
Torn?
main?
I don't.
No, the ship captain, as he was.
Oh
collecting
yeah,
all
and then
these
they
people.
changed him.
And
Yeah,
then he was
good.
gone. And then I was like, this show sucks now. They made Sarah Lance the captain of the ship or something like that, and it was just bad. But so I'll check it out. I just hope they can sustain.
I mean, I will tell you that there's the emo son does kind of get on my nerves because it seems like at the same time signature in every episode, he pitches a fit and calls Clark a horrible father and tells him he wishes he was never there. And it has happened in every single episode. We're 3 for 3. And
Yeah,
it does
that's
kind of get old, but everything else that's going on, I'm very interested. It's very captivating. And I hope that they can move beyond the screamo fits every single episode at the exact same time signature.
Does he at least listen to Screamo?
Understand.
Because if they've got some good pop punk music going on in the background as he's throwing a fit, it might be pretty good.
There's remember Smallville had a lot of bands on, right? They did a lot of band promotion during
that. Was that
there hasn't
era
been
of
anything
CW.
like that. There hasn't been anything like that yet. I'm kind of
That
hoping
era-
that they bring in some good bands.
That'd be awesome.
That era of CW was like Roswell, Smallville. There was a bunch of shows like that, and they would always have like at least 2 to 3 times a season have like a live band playing songs.
Yeah, someone
That's
who was
why
signed with Warner Media, right? Someone come in and
somebody like that they're trying to elevate. That's why I like the I've been watching the new Roswell show. I finished it, and now I'm waiting for season 3. That one's pretty good, and it feels like the old one where they have some live bands and stuff like that. They've changed the characters a little bit because that Roswell show is based on a book, so that one's pretty good on CW. Max, you might like that one. Roswell, New Mexico. It's about aliens. It's pretty fun. So I've been watching some documentaries. I've been watching this series. I can't for the life of me. Murder Maps, where they go and they talk about these crimes in England in like the early 1900s, late 1800s, and how they were solved and stuff like that. So that one's been pretty good. It's like 3 seasons long. Oh, is my internet messing up? Dude, I bought new modem, new routers. I don't know what the problem is. And I checked
no, it's
my
not
speed
your
and it
internet.
was
It's not
good.
your. They were saying that your sound was going quiet.
Did it? I'll turn up the gain a little bit.
Well, you probably just sat back too far. I don't know.
No, it's like 2 inches from my face.
Yeah, that comment was like from nearly 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, they go and investigate old 1930s like murders and stuff. Like the first episode is about this series of murders where they were shoving these women into like luggages and dismembering them and stuff, and it's crazy that stuff even happened in like the 1930s or whatever. But I did see this new movie. It just hit Netflix, and it's a little progressive, but it's called Moxie. And I kind of liked it because the main character, it's about women's rights and stuff, but it's set in high school. The main character starts discovering some of these old punk bands and things like that talk about like, take pride in yourself and things like that. And she starts like this whole revolution, and I loved it. Amy Poehler's in it. It's called Moxie. I think it's meant for like younger generations, but I was watching it with my 9-year-old daughter, and it was so much fun hearing some of those old bands that I loved from back in the day, and kind of having that same. It was nostalgic almost to see her kind of world open as she listened to this music and learned about how she's treated and things like that, and to take ownership and things like that. So it was really cool to see that movie. And then we started watching one on I think you can watch it on Hulu too, but we were watching it on Peacock, called Debris. And that one's about it's from the creators of Fringe, which Fringe is one of my all-time favorite shows. I love that show. And it's about these two detectives. One's from the FBI, one's from the MI6 or something like that. They get together because a spaceship has been leaving debris all over the country, all over the world, and it's been causing this really crazy stuff. It's only 2 episodes in, but that show's pretty awesome, and I think it's on Hulu as well. Have you seen that one, Max? Debris?
No, I haven't heard of it.
Apparently it's on right now. I never heard of it.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Well, there's something that I thought you guys might enjoy, though, because there is something new that I've been watching, and I wanted to share it. No, but I wanted to share this with you. I think Sam wanted to share with the audience.
Oh, I did see that. That's what you're talking about?
Anyway,
So is that a video that they posted and then they changed that app changes the way it works, or is it a picture?
So it's a photo. It's a single photo, and it uses this AI app to basically animate everything and create the video based off one photo.
That is hilarious.
it's pretty impressive. It's funny. It was really good.
At first,
That's a
when I saw that
poppin'
was
song.
like a deep fake or something like that, like somebody put your face.
Yeah, it's not too dissimilar from deepfakes. Yeah,
Yeah,
very similar.
that's hysterical. Well, let's get into our. Did you finish watching it, Sam?
Yeah,
As I was talking.
for sure. Mhm.
Let's talk about our main topic of the night, and good job, Max, for changing the banner. Cherry, an Apple TV original starring Tom Holland and directed by the Russo brothers. It is kind of Tom Holland's, I guess you could say, his ballot for award season. I think is what this movie was kind of intended as a vehicle for that. He stars as a kind of lost adolescent, young adult, I guess you could say, who enlists in the army and develops PTSD. And it's very true to, I think, what a lot of veterans go through with PTSD and getting addicted to drugs to try to cope and things like that. And I thought it was a very stylized movie. It was very good. It's broken up into little chapters. It feels kind of like reading a book. But a bit more adult than what we're used to from Tom Holland.
Well, I don't know. Did you guys see Devil All the Time?
That's
Well, I
true.
guess-
We did see that.
I felt like this one was more adult than Devil All the Time. Devil All the Time is, and he's dealing with demons and stuff in that, but seeing he's dealing with like his
Not
inner
literal
demons.
demons.
Inner demons. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
Well, yeah, I was like, wait.
But
You
this
talking
one
about
deals.
real demons, or are you talking about inner demons?
I think that movie is a little bit too fantastic, whereas this movie feels like it could be real, right? Like you could see somebody falling into that descent, like what Tom
Well,
Holland.
absolutely, and people do fall into that,
Yeah,
and
maybe
that's what
not
made
to
it.
the point of robbing banks and things like that, but they do some pretty dangerous things to themselves to cope with
Yeah.
reality, right?
For sure.
Well, maybe we ought to start by talking about what the movie is about.
Well, I gave a pretty decent synopsis, I thought.
Well,
You can go
it's
for
kind
it.
of broad strokes, and maybe we can
Yeah.
dig down a little
Go for it.
deeper. So, Tom Holland's the main character. He plays a young man who falls in love, and then his love breaks up with him for a short time, and he's so destroyed by having been dumped that he signs up for the military. And then a few days later, his girlfriend or his ex-girlfriend comes back to him and says, the only reason I'm leaving is because I'm in love with you and I don't know how to deal with that, which is kind of a cliched trope by now, I'd say. I'm so scared of my love and we need to break up. It's so weird. I've never known anybody who loved somebody so much that they had to break up with them. I've never known anybody who did that.
Well,
It shows up in movies.
I understand it. I get it, because I feel like she was a young woman that had so much drive in her life. Like, she had things that she wanted to do and she wanted to excel as a person, and she kind of saw this relationship as a hindrance to that. I mean, that's happened to me. That's happened to friends I know. So I think it's a real emotion. I
mean, it must be real for some people, but I've never met anybody who did that. But it does get used an awful lot in shows, in shows where there's romance. At any rate, so they get back together, they get married because he signed up for the military and he's got to go off to basic.
In a short 24-hour window, it seems like.
Yeah, it's like real fast. And so off he goes into basic, and he's signed up for basic training, and then his advanced training is to become a medic. And he makes this comment that it all feels like pretend. Like, we're pretending to be soldiers. The drill sergeants are pretending to be drill sergeants. And it just feels like it's all pretend, which is a really strange realization. Like at a certain point, I feel like I've felt that same way too. Like, we're all just kind of pretending. We don't really, nobody really knows what they're doing.
We all live in the Matrix anyway, so
you're just faking it till you're making it, you know? And then off he goes to, was it Iraq or Afghanistan? But
I think I'm not sure.
I'm guessing based on Iraq. Period, it was Afghanistan. But
oh, that's right. It was set in 2000.
It was like 2002,
right? Yeah. So it would be Afghanistan.
It was most likely Afghanistan.
It was early 2000s, post 9/11. When he gets back, it's like 2005. So it's like 2 years. So 2003 to 2005. But he goes off to Afghanistan. He sees combat. He sees tragedy. His best friend gets burned in an attack, and the Humvee goes up in flames, and he survives while his best friend doesn't.
Who has a baby on the way.
And his friend's got a baby.
His whole life to look forward to, whereas Tom Holland feels like he has nothing really.
And so this is kind of where, this is the midpoint. This is about the midpoint of the movie. And that's kind of where things start to spiral out of control. Because when he gets back, he's got to deal with his wife and this trauma that he's suffering from. And it's kind of just the point of the movie is, I think, more about just bad choices leading to worse choices and worse choices, because he ends up taking drugs, Xanax initially, but then Oxycontin, which is an opioid, and then more and more severe drugs. And then they start
heroin.
Yeah, they start doing real hard stuff, but they also run out of money. So they have to, they owe this guy money because they stole all his drugs. And then in order to get the money, they rob banks. And pretty soon they're in a really vicious cycle of drugs and crime. And the stylization that you mentioned earlier, Lance, it comes in the form of Tom Holland is talking about everything that he's doing and all the stuff that he's seeing.
He's often breaking the fourth wall.
And yeah, he does. He'll look right into the camera and explain his thought process in those
Zach
moments.
Morris.
Very Zach Morris, exactly. And then, but there's so many funny things like, oh, I got to go to the bank, and they get to the bank, and the bank's name is The Bank. Or
did you see the one that was called Shitty Bank?
Yeah,
yeah, that was funny.
I laughed pretty hard.
And then he goes to see the doctor, and the doctor's name is Dr. Whomever. And there's all these little details like that where it's like, it's just a place filler. You know, it's nothing
Well,
that's
and
gonna.
I don't know if it was so much of a place filler as he was basically recounting his story.
Yeah, I know, but what I'm saying is, he's saying it doesn't matter what the doctor's name is. It's just a place filler.
Yeah.
Whomever is just a place filler because he left no impression on me. It doesn't matter who the doctor is. It doesn't matter the name of this bank. It doesn't
Or
matter.
the drug dealer's name was Coke and Pills.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's just a place filler. You just got to
Yeah.
understand what they do. And it kind of lended to that same proposition that, hey, it's all pretend. It's all fake. And this kind of despondent attitude he had towards life. Now I finished watching it during the opening bit of this podcast, but at the end probably is the greatest tragedy, which is that Tom Holland grows a mustache.
Yeah, he looked pretty bad.
So I have a question. I have a question to ask you guys because we know that he's now filming Spider-Man. So do you think they're going to digitally remove that mustache?
That could be the mustache that ruins the MCU.
Yeah. Mustache Gate Part 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell it's not his mustache either.
Yeah, he probably bought it from Henry Cavill.
Yeah, and I wanted to say something to your point earlier where you were talking about the opening and seeing how he makes these rash decisions. It shows in the beginning of the movie how emotionally unstable he is, right? His girl breaks up with him and his reaction is, I'm going to go enlist in the military. So from the get-go, this is a very emotionally unstable person. So we can see how these traumatic things would affect him so deeply. Do you agree with that statement?
Sure.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Max, what are your thoughts on this movie?
I have lots of thoughts. I don't know how we want to segment them up, though, because some of my thoughts are going to be anti-military, but not really. I just hate basic training, and I think that they treat people with such disrespect, and it's one of the biggest reasons I refuse to go into the military. I don't agree with the way they treat people at all.
Now, I do want to because I have a lot of friends that have been in the military, Army specifically, and Marines. And while it is very difficult, I do think that it's kind of sensationalized.
Sure, well, I've seen it in a lot of movies, but it's probably dramatized in all of them. But I stopped doing sports in high school because I don't appreciate being yelled at. I don't think it's an effective tool. So I guess that's just triggering for me. I was pissed that whole segment because I hate seeing people treat others that way for zero reason. You're just being a jerk to be a jerk. Anyways, personally, I really enjoyed the movie, but I thought it was extremely depressing, which may or may not have been the intent. I imagine that was part of the intent. I'll tell you one of the parts that was the most crushing for me that felt so gruesome, even though they didn't really show any blood, was near-ish the end of the movie when his girlfriend or his wife overdoses and he's at the hospital and her parents are basically like, you need to get out of her life. Get out of here. Like, because they recognize that he's the one that led her to this life, which is true. And then he goes into his car and he just stabs himself.
Do you see how sympathetic they were at that moment? They're saying, I know that you're messed up. And I know that you've seen things. And I know that, like, that's what the mom was telling him. Mm-hmm. But you need to be a man and walk away. Like, it's almost to the case of, like, we're upset that this happened to our daughter, and we know that you're the cause of it, but we know that something bred you this way. Mm-hmm. Right? I thought that was incredibly moving to hear that conversation from a mother. She's like, hey, listen, man, like, I love you, but this relationship isn't healthy, and I know it's not your fault, but it is kind of your fault.
Sure.
You know,
and that's what was so tragic about it is I saw, you know, the movie does a good job of leading you along this journey of seeing, you know, how he got there. It's not just A to Z. It gives you A, B, C, D. You know, it shows you progressively how he gets to where he ends up. But I found that moment when he goes into his truck and is just stabbing himself in the leg with his heroin, basically. I found that so just crushing. And I get it. I do. I mean, because I can only imagine if my wife was in the hospital dying, essentially, and luckily she didn't die, but like, and it was my fault, I would be crushed. And so I found that moment to be particularly powerful, disturbing but powerful. I thought the movie just had a lot of good beats to it. I liked the way it was structured. I liked the whole, part one, part two, epilogue, all that kind of stuff.
It felt like a book.
Yeah, I can get that idea from it. I really enjoyed the movie, but I was nearing the end. I was like, man, this seems like it's just depressing, and I don't usually mind depressing movies, but it was like I was really not feeling that aspect of it. But then I was happy to see that, he turned himself in, which I thought was a very grown up thing for him to do. It forced him to get clean because he went to prison for, what was it, like 13 years?
2007 to 2020.
2021, yeah. Yeah, so 14 years, I think is what that math adds up to. So he's in prison for a long time.
He grew a mustache, but doesn't look a day older.
Yeah, they tried to do some makeup to make him look older, but yeah. But he grew.
He's gonna look 18 for the rest of his life.
He grew a lot in that time period, and to me, it expressed the importance. I liked it for multiple reasons. One, he was grown up enough to realize that he needed someone to intervene, and that going to prison was going to be the way to do that. And then two, the other thing I liked about it is, sometimes we look at our as someone who's been in prison, people have a tendency to look at them very negatively. And I get that. They made a mistake. But at the same time, what it indicates to you in this character's case is someone who was able to seemingly be rehabilitated. And I think that's a great
Not only
thing.
that, but in the epilogue, it shows him rehabilitating others.
Yes.
Right? He kind of becomes a leader in his time there, talking about his story and stuff. And I would argue that his story that he's telling could be to these inmates throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, is that the epilogue is, because I don't think he narrates anything in the epilogue.
No,
so
it's
to
all
me,
silent.
To me, I got the idea that everything he
That's
was narrating
Sam
before
was
was
watch it during our show.
yeah, it just has some music playing over it. But I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. I don't think it's going to win the Oscar this year. Not that there's anything currently better, but it didn't leave such an impression on me that I feel like it's going to be the Oscar winner. But I did really enjoy it.
I don't think it would win like Best Picture or Best Direction. Maybe screenplay.
It could win Best Actor. Tom Holland did
Tom Holland. That's what I was going
well.
to say. His portrayal in this movie I thought was very good. And we've always known that Tom Holland is a good actor because we've seen things before he did Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And we saw The Devil Cries All the Time. I can't ever remember that name. What's the name of it? The Devil's All the
Devil
Time.
in the Details All the Time.
It's the devil. The devil wears Prada every Thursday
at Triple D Dodgeball.
And now I can't remember the actual name of it.
Devil all the time. The devil all the time.
Okay. So he did a good performance in that. I think this was a better performance than that movie. I thought this movie was better than that movie too. But what I loved about this movie is, first of all, I didn't know what I was getting into because the trailer is very
the trailer makes you feel like it's going to be way more about bank robbing.
Yeah, and it's not, right? I felt like this movie was a mix between like The Hurt Locker and Requiem for a Dream, right? Like it's like the first part of the movie is a war movie and the second part of the movie is a drug heist movie, right? Like not heist movie, but it had more to do about the PTSD and everything like that. Like it's cut into two parts. But his that scene where he's in that truck, Max, I couldn't agree with you more. I thought it was fantastic. And seeing him go through these motions of being drugged out and feeling that hopelessness and that loss, and then seeing your wife before he goes and does that last bank robbery. I mean, she's laying on the bed and she looks like she's about to die right there. And it's like he's already made the decision. He's like, yeah, I'll do it when I get back. Right. I'll do it when I get back. She's asking for another hit, I guess. I'll do it when I get back, puts the blanket over and walks away. And that's the last time he sees her in 13 years from what we know, right? And just those scenes and the emotional depth that he pulls out in those scenes is so much more than what he can do as Peter Parker.
Yeah, he definitely got to show some more range here. There wasn't much comedy. I can't really think of very many jokes in the movie.
A couple of his fourth wall breakings were kind of chuckled a little bit,
Yeah.
you know.
But that's fine. Like, movies don't have to be funny all the time. But I guess I'm agreeing with you. He got to show, in the MCU, he shows how funny he can be, and he does get to show some drama. Like his death scene in Infinity War is one of the probably the most impactful death for me in that entire movie. It was the most crushing one because
memes
of
about
his
it
lines.
like a year later, when Endgame finally came out, there were still new memes being made about that death scene.
Yeah, it was great. So we've known for a long time that he's a really good actor, but this one, I think this movie showed it off even more.
Yeah.
He can be angry, he can be dramatic, he can be funny. The man is he's very talented, and he's very young. I mean, I don't know for sure, but he's in his like young 20s, and he's like 24, 23. He's got a long career ahead of him, and I'm excited to see more.
I'm surprised you didn't know that.
Tom Holland is not 47.
47 years old.
Yeah, right.
Did
He's
you
very-
guys see a
he's-
movie?
Yeah,
One of
very
his
young looking.
first movies with Naomi Watts called The Impossible.
No, the first thing I saw him in was Call of the Sea, I think is what it's called, with him
with,
and Chris Hemsworth, or not
yeah.
Chris Hemsworth. Yeah, it is Hemsworth. Yeah, Hemsworth.
He's in a movie called The Impossible, and he's very young in that movie. I think he's probably like 13. It's based on a true story with Naomi Watts, and Ewan McGregor, I think, is in it too. And when that movie came out, he was already getting some praise from his performance in that. So this kid has been on kind of this meteoric rise since he started. I can't believe you haven't seen that movie, Max. You should watch it. It's incredibly good. My wife saw it and then watched it again, made me sit down and watch it. That's how much she loved it.
It's impossibly good.
It's basically this family of four goes on a vacation to the Bahamas, and there's a
hurricane.
that breaks through, and the family of four gets split.
Oh, I have seen that. I've seen that.
Yeah, he is very good in it.
He's the
fantastic. Yeah, he's Naomi Watts' son. But I mean, this just shows where this kid is going to go. I mean, he's only going to get better and better and better, in my opinion. I think he has the brightest future out of anybody playing in the Marvel universe right now. Him and Elizabeth Olsen, probably.
And he was young here. I went to the IMDb and I'm looking through
24.
pictures for the movie, and man, he was so young here. This movie's 9 years ago, so makes sense. But man,
I'm getting 58 years old, born July 3rd, 1962. Oh, sorry, wrong Tom. That's
Ian McGregor. Oh, okay. I thought you were looking at Ian McGregor.
sorry. I hit auto. I let the autocomplete do it too soon. Let's see.
96. That's when Tom Holland was born.
So
June 1st.
So we already heard from Max what his hardest part of the movie was for him, right? The hardest viewing that you had during this movie was that scene in the truck, right? And the scene
that was,
I'm guessing, as well, right?
Yeah. Sorry, no. That was the scene that was really hard hitting. But I mentioned earlier I really didn't like the basic training stuff. But I want to make it very clear that I support and love the military. I just don't think that the screaming antics are good. That's all.
Yeah. Sam, what about you? If you had to pick one moment in this movie that was the hardest for you to watch, what moment would that be?
The midpoint, the deaths at the midpoint of the movie were pretty tough. And that's kind of what most movies do at the midpoint, is they hit you with the hardest hitting death right in the middle of the movie. And it really changes the trajectory of the movie or the story at that point. Mm-hmm. So, he was playing pretend, and he was doing a very good job of it during the first half of the movie. Really, what did he really want to do was be with his girlfriend and then his wife. he didn't really want to go in the military. He didn't really want to go to basic. He didn't really want to go to the Middle East. He didn't really want to go do all these things. He was just pretending because he didn't know what else to do. He didn't know what his purpose was. He was just pretending. And then
most people that age, right? 20.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if
21.
that's most people, but it certainly isn't unique. It certainly isn't uncommon. And yeah, there's a lot of that kind of sentiment. I mean, I still feel it even sometimes today. Just when you go in somewhere new, you just kind of put on a brave face and you do the best that you can from what you've seen other people do or on movies or whatever. And you try and figure it out as you go. I remember I was talking to my dad one time and I said, Dad, at what age did you finally feel like you knew what life was going on? And he's retired at this time. I'm asking him, he's late 60s. And he goes, I'll let you know when I get there. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Man.
That doesn't feel
like, wait a minute.
Like, hey man, come on. I need some direction.
You're telling me there's 40 more years of me being lost in the wilderness?
40 more years of me going, okay, there's gonna come a point where I finally know what I'm doing.
Yeah, when do we all hit Gandalf level is what I want to know.
Right.
Like when do we all get the white beard and become all knowing?
Dude, I tell you, sorry, I'm gonna have to Lord of the Rings nerd you here. He doesn't even know everything, bro.
No one cares. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow.
I don't know.
Wow.
But yeah, that was like the most important scene for me, Max, not Lance. Lance is
You know what?
Lance is back. Okay.
Max is gonna lose access to the main Couch Crunchers thing. This was supposed to be helpful for me, and he's booted me the last 3 weeks in a row. So I'm about to change the password on his ass.
You guys are so funny.
I love you, Max. He's booted me 3 times in the last 3 weeks.
I've done it twice in the last 3 weeks. You're making up the third time.
No.
You guys are funny.
It's been 16 times in the last 4 weeks.
That sounds right. That's more accurate.
True story. What were you saying, Sam? I was
saying that was probably the most impactful moment because it led to that real tonal shift at the midpoint where the pretending was over and then reality hit, and reality was more than he could handle, and it was just like bad choice after bad choice, and it was just going faster and faster towards destruction at that point.
Almost like he was an avalanche. He was just constantly just going downhill and collecting bad choice after bad choice, and I agree with you.
Yeah, and I don't know about you guys, but I got invested enough in his character that I was sitting there watching him make these bad choices, and before he was going to make them, and I was like, stop! No, don't do that. What are you thinking? Like, at least for me, that's the reaction I had, because I felt for the guy and I cared about him. Because, like, here's another thing I noticed. He never mentions his parents, but they mention hers. So, and maybe that's not relevant, but I took it to be relevant that her parents were mentioned and his weren't, which leads me to believe that he didn't have a very good upbringing as well. As well. So, I don't know. I just felt for the guy, and I was rooting for him, and I wanted him to succeed, and he kept making poor decision after poor decision after poor decision, and I was starting to not want. I was losing faith in him, and I was starting to like think, do I really want to root for this guy? Because even though he occasionally does some good things, he's mostly just a dirtbag now. But it's also in the back of my mind, I understood why, because he'd seen horrible things in war. He didn't seem to have a good upbringing. He's got this PTSD. He got involved in drugs, and it led him to spiral and spiral and spiral, you know. And then, of course, he does the right thing and just turns himself in. I thought it was a weird way to turn himself in, but I liked it, even though it was weird.
Got that one last hit.
Yeah,
I think, Max, the conversation you're having with yourself right now is the whole purpose of this movie, right? It's, hey, we send these young people off to war. They come back damaged and broken, lost. And I think it's more so, you know, not like they make this guy almost they put him on this pedestal. He's this good guy and everything like that. And yes, he has his issues and he's doing these bad things, but you still feel for him. You still champion him. And I think that that's true with a lot of the veterans that we see homeless on the street that have made a series of bad decisions, and it's because they're all coping. So how do we help them? I think that's the point of
Lance,
this movie.
I think about that angle, and I don't think it's quite right. I don't think this is a movie about military personnel suffering, because while that is a big contributing factor to the poor choices that he makes, he was doing drugs way before he joined the military. He was already doing drugs. He was making bad decisions all along. And what's interesting about the military portion of it is how easy it was for him to get into the military.
Right. And I think that just furthers my point is they are so eager to bring people into the military that they have this kid that has issues right there that probably shouldn't have ever been in that room, and he gets in anyways. I think
It's
he was
just-
more susceptible to all the crap that he had to deal with afterwards because of the decisions he made before he walked into that room.
Yeah, the military is an interesting entity because it's like if you can't get a job, you can get into the military.
Right.
Yeah, but at the same time, it was like it didn't really feel like it was the driving force behind his bad decisions as much as it was the drugs, because the drugs were very easy for him to fall into, and it seemed like the trauma that he had suffered was a pretty tough thing to deal with, and it kind of added to the despondency that he was already feeling. It's this whole thing is pretend, and he could have gone to a desk job. He could have worked at the bank. He could have done any number of things, and it still would have been the same result, which is, I hate my life. I hate who I am. I need to do drugs. I need to rob banks so I can do more drugs.
See, and I would agree with that statement if it not for one scene. When he's on drugs, he runs out of drugs and he goes to the doctor. And what does that doctor do? Rather than try to get to the root of his problems, prescribes him more drugs, more dangerous drugs. I think Oxycontin is one of the most dangerous drugs in the world.
Well, it's way more addictive. It's super
Yes.
addictive. And it leads to more opioid abuse, like fentanyl and other things. But that was kind of what pushed them to steal the safe, right? And break into the safe and get the harder drugs.
I think that a lot of these people that go into these doctors' offices and need help, that the first course of action for a lot of these doctors is to prescribe it away. I think that scene right there proves my attitude about this movie. You know what I mean? Like, why add that scene? That was one of one of the hardest scenes for me to watch. Is this kid comes in? He's obviously drugged out. He's obviously got issues. Anybody can see that looking at it. And what does this doctor do? Prescribe him Oxycontin.
Yeah,
Matt,
really.
have you ever heard of it? He looks like an addict.
Yeah, sure. But think about this. There was an almost identical scene in The Joker, right? But he keeps going back to the same social worker, and then finally he says to her, "You never listen." Right. And there's not a "you never listen" moment for Tom Holland. It's just that you only see the one visit. But if he had gone back, would he have had a "you never listen" moment like the Joker did? I mean, who knows? But it's basically you can substitute military service with any job, and it still plays the whole thing through, because he had the suffering of drug habit long before he joined the military, right? Some of the first things he's doing is handing out Xanax and ecstasy amongst his friends. And then he falls in love, and that's basically another drug. And then when he gets cut off from that, he makes a decision to join the military. Maybe it's a rash decision. I don't want to say a bad decision, but it certainly is a rash decision.
Yeah, I agree. Rash, not bad.
and then he does another rash decision where he's getting married to this girl that he doesn't really know. I mean, he's in love with her, but he doesn't really know her. And even when you love somebody, being married is tough, right? Especially right at first.
Especially because she looks 12.
Yeah,
Did anybody get that? She looks way younger than even he does.
She's a Disney Channel actress growing up.
So young. She reminded me of Joey King.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, maybe it doesn't seem as tragic if he's an office worker, right? If it's Office Space plus drugs and trauma, or drugs and bank robbery, maybe it's not as tragic. Maybe it's plays more of a comedy. But Baby Driver wasn't too dissimilar to this movie.
But don't you feel for Baby at the end of that movie? You kind of get
and that's what I'm saying is like there's a lot of very similar beats.
Well, Baby's a lot more likable. Baby doesn't make as many poor decisions as Cherry.
No, Baby's decisions are being made for him.
Yeah,
essentially throughout that movie. Tom Holland is and I would argue, that his decisions are being made for him, right?
Well, yes, it's not that they're being. I mean, I'll let you finish, but then.
Well, yes, on the screen, he's making these decisions, but it's almost like his trauma and his drug addiction has him. The trauma and the drug addiction is what's making the decisions for him. It's all about feeling. It's all about coping, really.
Yeah, I would say it's less about decisions being made and more just the path of least resistance. Mm-hmm. He's just kind of tumbling along his life, trying to figure out what choices he even can make. He doesn't really want to make any choices. He's in one mode, and that is consume and dull the pain. Those are the only things on his mind. Consume drugs, dull the pain.
But see, I feel like the epilogue offers a lot more weight to him as a person because of what he does. He kind of sacrifices himself because he sees himself as this bearer of death that's coming down on his wife, right? He sees that there's no way out of this. He makes this decision to give himself up, and then he redeems himself by all the little scenes you're seeing in the epilogue. I think that deep down, he's a good person that just gets constantly mixed up into a world of shit, essentially.
Yeah, but again, it's like, okay, here's what I was going to say is that Baby Driver is like, he's his own guy. Like, he does things his own way, and he's very good at what he does. And so the team that he works with respects him to some extent. And what ends up happening is that he gets involved with a girl, and then the worlds collide, are starting to collide, and the space within which he can operate successfully starts to close narrower and narrower. And so in that sense, his decisions are sort of made for him because there's not a lot of paths out of the situation.
Essentially.
Well, it's not only that, it's that he has one way to get through this without dying and without losing what he wants. And whereas Tom Holland's character has a lot of different ways. There's infinite number of moments where he can step off the path that he's on, but he never does. And so it's a path of least resistance where he's just kind of tumbling down this hill, or tumbling down this very steep decline, and then he hits rock bottom, and fortunately he doesn't die at rock bottom, but he's able to rehabilitate in prison and tell his story and hopefully help some other people cope. But this is to me, this is more a story about drug addiction and rash decisions than it is about military trauma.
See, and I think it could be about either one of those things, because I do agree with you. Like, I see all the points you're making, and I think yes, those are incredibly valid, and that could be the vision for this movie. I think the reason that I lean more towards the veteran aspect of it is just because that's something I've been passionate about for many years. The way our veterans are treated. Every year I donate to veterans funds and things like that to get them rehabilitation, and as you know, I'm an avid marijuana supporter in the state, and it's for those reasons too, to get people the medicine that they need, because I'm against oxy and all those other things. And I think that it just helps me that I see this movie speaking to things that are important to me, right?
Yeah, I agree with you, Lance. I don't think, I mean, I do think you're right, Sam, that like the movie isn't necessarily meant to be about the military so much, but I think that there's a reason they chose the military. And I think they were trying to portray that side of things in addition to the overarching story.
I think they were trying to take shortcuts. I feel like it was an easy shot to take. It's like, ooh, the military does such a poor job of training people and of helping people cope, and so we can make that a real easy source of trauma or bad decisions. But honestly, like people have those types of problems all the time with or without the military.
Kyle's being funny in the chat. What bottle are you sucking on? Do you have like a water bottle?
Hydro
Suck on that.
Stop it.
Suck on that
Stop,
bottle.
Max. You're the worst.
Oh my gosh, I have to put an NC
Why? You know what? Max has 2 ratings that he operates on. Have you noticed this? He has PG and he has R. That's it.
Like most Mormon boys.
It's like, come on, man. Degrees. There's degrees.
Here, there's no gray area.
Give it to us, Lance.
It's either Sunday or, damnation.
Sunday or Saturday night.
Yeah.
Sunday morning or Saturday night.
I'm gonna repent Sunday morning. Let's do it. Let's be crazy.
I think Sam, you may be right that yes, using the military in this fashion is a cop out, but you also got to remember the where this is coming from, right? It's coming from Hollywood that hasn't always, in the last decade, for sure, last 2 decades, hasn't always been super supportive of the military.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the tone of military movies has become so bleak, and it's just like, wow. Military movies in the 60s or the 50s, 60s, 70s even, studios were pumping out very patriotic, like Force 10 from Navarone with Harrison Ford was really good. And probably the most recent, like, glorifying military movie was probably We Were Soldiers, Mel Gibson directed. But then you've got movies like Inglourious Bastards and
Hurt Locker.
Hurt Locker, yeah, Hurt Locker is very good. But then the one with the tank. What was the one with the tank that had Brad Pitt?
Fury. It's one of my favorite movies
Fury,
ever.
Yeah,
Love that movie.
And
Shia LaBeouf.
They show kind of in 1917, there's these 2 sides of it, right? It's like there's this extreme heroism, and then it brings out the best of men and it brings out the worst of men, and it's like the extreme heroism and self-sacrifice versus cowardice and violence, and you have these 2 things kind of juxtaposed, and it's hard to really pin one down and focus on one versus the other. So I tend to appreciate more of the courage and self-sacrifice versus the cowardice and violence. But
I think there's a balance of 2. I think American Sniper, which was one of the best movies I've ever seen, shows that really patriotism and the pitfalls of war, right? It kind of shows both. You see Bradley Cooper's character as what's it, Chris Kyle? Is that his name?
Chris Kyle, yeah, American hero,
struggling on the roof, as he's got this person dead in his sights, and you kind of see what he comes home to. Like, I thought that movie did a really good job of showing both sides of, you know, the patriotism side, because it has to be a patriotic movie if it's a movie about Chris Kyle, right? But it also shows like some of the struggles that he went to. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Bradley Cooper won an Oscar for that, didn't he?
He's definitely nominated.
Yeah, I was
I
say
think
he was
he
always
won too.
nominated.
Yeah. So, I mean, I thought this was a very good movie. I thought it was a different approach to see a movie where a lot of the beats in it I've seen in other movies, right? Because you could compare this to so many other movies, but they did it differently enough to make it stand out on its own. Sam, do you agree with that?
I don't know that they did enough to make it stand out. I feel like there's a lot of kind of mishmash there, and I don't know that I really enjoyed it a ton. I liked the little kind of stylistic things like the Doctor Whomever and the bank and the shitty bank. I thought those were pretty funny little accents to the whole thing. I felt like the story was pretty bleak, and the conclusion of it, although I was watching it during the beginning part of the show, I still was able to understand what was happening, and it felt like a breath, like you were finally able to breathe at the end, but it still didn't give me the catharsis I was hoping for. And you know, a lot of people can really relate to that. I mean,
Yeah.
It's like, at what point in life do you finally feel like you're not pretending, like you're a genuine person at that point? And finally at the end, you know, even though he's got that terrible mustache, he does kind of feel like a genuine person.
Max, what about you? I don't know what you just did, but I'm getting a ton of background noise now.
He took himself off mute.
I took myself off mute, and it probably made my mic move. Is it better now?
It's fine.
Yeah, it's better. Go ahead.
What about me? You wanting to know just more of my thoughts about the movie?
Well, no. I asked Sam a question. Do you think so? This movie does a lot of things that we've seen in other movies, right?
Yeah.
Some tropes and things like that we've seen it done in other movies, but I feel like it does enough to separate itself from those movies that we've seen before it. Sam,
not so much.
Not. What is your take on that?
It didn't feel super new. There were things about it that felt unique. Not that they haven't like ever been done before, but there were, you know, some things that they did with, I don't know. I think I've just been noticing aspect ratios more, but there was a point in the movie where they had, you know, kind of as if you were watching it on an old TV screen from the early 2000s, during the war scenes, especially, during some of the basic training stuff. And I enjoyed that. That was unique. The whole chapter segmenting, again, that's not new, but it was interesting. I don't know. I'm struggling with how I feel about the movie. I enjoyed it. But I don't know that I think it's this incredible movie that I've seen a lot of the reviews making it out to be. I liked it.
Most of the reviews are not very favorable.
I don't know. I was just Googling it, and it's got a 4.6 out of 5 on Google at least, but maybe some of the other review congregation sites have been.
I think 4.6 out of 10 is where it's kind of sitting, but
yeah, I don't know.
But that's neither here nor there. I mean, we watched the show and we can make our own decisions.
No, I know that.
Who cares what anybody else is saying? But if you enjoyed it, I mean, don't let me poop on your parade.
You're not. I am capable of forming my own opinion, but thank you. No, I just honestly don't know how I feel about it. In some regards, I thought the acting was really good, but then in other respects, I found it so depressing, I didn't really like it. So I watched 2 movies this week that I hadn't seen before. This was my second favorite. I very much more enjoyed Boss Level. I enjoyed that way more. Now, they're completely different. There's no substance to Boss Level. It's surface level. It's just meant to be a fun shoot 'em up, but I loved it. And Cherry was good, but I don't know. It was
Well,
good, but it wasn't great.
Yeah.
Let's you guys ready to give your ratings on it?
Sure.
Yeah, do you want me? Because that's what I was kind of just about to do, but I wanted to wait for you to go
for it.
ahead.
Go for it.
So I was struggling with the rating I wanted to give it. I'm thinking that 3.5 out of 5 is where I'm going to land on it. There were some really great things about it, but I felt like it was so bleak that it made it not very enjoyable, which is ironic because I know we reviewed. Why am I blanking on the movie now? It's got Hugh Jackman in it, and it's like about his kids being kidnapped and stuff. Why am I blanking on what that movie's called? Prisoners. That's a very bleak movie, but I'm pretty sure I gave it a 5 out of 5.
The ending of that movie still haunts me.
I think that movie's great, but there's something about the way Cherry was done that it made it more depressing, and maybe it's because it's so grounded in reality. I don't know, but that's where I'm at.
See, and that's what I'm gravitating more towards movies like that now. That's why I love the A24 movies, because they're more grounded in reality and they don't always have rosy endings and stuff like that. And I feel that this is closer to an A24 movie than it is some of the other things that we reviewed. Sam, do you agree with that?
I don't consume a ton of A24 movies. They're basically indie movies that end on kind of an open note. That's kind of my impression of A24 movies. They are open ended. They leave you at a point of semi resolution, but not complete resolution. Was the king of you know what I'm talking about, the one with the firefighter kid, Pete.
Oh, King of
Pete
Staten
Davidson.
Island.
King of Staten Island. Was that an A24 movie?
That's an Apatow movie, but I don't know if A24 did it. That movie's fantastic. No, Uncut Gems is the A24 movie. Room.
Awful.
Love that movie.
Room was great.
I feel like
I love Uncut
They
Gems.
have a tendency to leave themselves open-ended, and this one did kind of have that feel at the end after the epilogue. You're like, okay, there's kind of open-ended. There's a little bit of personal triumph, but not so much that you're overwhelmed by it. So yeah, I get where you're coming from. Now I'm going to give it my rating. I'm going to give it 2.5. It was very bleak. Tom Holland is very good in the movie, so don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed his performance. I liked the narration style and kind of the real pop stuff that they would put in, like like when the drill sergeant just telling him to run through the woods and come on, son, look here, son, and the words would pop up on the screen. Or the things where he's in the bank and all those little touches, those little details, little artistic flourishes, those are really cool, and I really enjoyed those. But
kind of typical of the Russos, huh? I mean, we saw it in Endgame and things like that.
Well, I mean, they didn't do like the narration part, or they didn't do where the guy's shouting and it's kind of like a comic book where you see the speech on the text on the screen.
Yeah,
that was kind of neat. But it just kind of broke up a lot of the really heavy topics that were going on, or the heavy content. And it felt at times that the real dark moments were kind of cheapened. Like it was coming out of left. There were so many of those moments, right? You have you have all the violence in the war scenes. You have the death of his friend and all those other soldiers in the truck, and then it's like terrible moment after terrible moment after terrible moment after terrible moment, and to a certain extent, I kind of grew numb to it. It's like, okay, how many of these moments do we pile up before they start to lose impact? And it wasn't very many. Like there was lots of them. At the same time, there is a lot to really sink into. There's a lot of moments, like the part where the lazy-eyed friend ditches him at the bank and he has to run after him.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of moments, but overall, it was really heavy, and it's not something I would ever want to watch again. And having put my time into it, it was like, wow, I wish we could have done something a little bit brighter, a little bit more fun.
Well, that's what next week's bringing, hopefully. As you notice, is we've been on a
Well.
Marvel run for 8 weeks, and today is the first week of. Is it the first week of the yeah, this is the first episode of the year that we haven't done a Marvel property, right?
I don't think that's true.
We were doing Mandalorian for a long time. That's not
Well,
Marvel.
That was last year. though.
Mandalorian ended in December, and we
Oh.
didn't start
We-
this show
we-
till January 15th.
We have done a lot of Marvel this year, though. You're right.
Yeah,
And then next week is going to be Justice League, which I think it's funny that you're talking about how that's going to be brighter.
no,
I mean,
or the Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Well, yeah, we will talk about that too. But Justice League is I think that's the bigger news.
I don't think so.
It's going to be bleak.
I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to Godzilla versus Kong, or Kong versus Godzilla. I don't know who's first, but
Yeah,
What-
I've been
I want to
rewatching
see
those this week.
Godzilla. I want to see Godzilla versus the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
That's
That sounds like a
Godzilla
winner.
eats Stay Puft Marshmallow Man
Yeah,
like s'mores, man. He's just gonna toast them and eat them. Like
yeah, man.
Godzilla is at least 10 times taller than Stay Puft.
The studio
So-
needs to do their own What If series so that we can see Godzilla versus Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
all right, so I'm going to give my rating of Cherry. I loved this movie, and so I was kind of shocked to come on here and see that you guys didn't feel the same way about me as me. But if I was to rate it just on story, I would probably be closer to Max's rating. But I think Tom Holland's performance is so almost inspired. Like I thought the performance was the best of his career. I loved every second of it. You guys know that I suffer from severe ADHD, so most of the time when I'm watching a movie, I'm looking at my phone. Right? This movie, I was not looking at my phone. I couldn't. It kept my attention throughout the whole 2 hours that this movie was going on, and I love movies that do that. So my rating is 4.5 out of 5.
Nice.
2 hours
I
and
loved-
10, 2 hours and 15.
Yeah, I loved this movie. I thought it
We're
was
all
just,
a point apart. I like it.
yeah.
I'm literally in the middle. I love it.
Well, you gave it a 3, right?
I gave it 3.5. Sam gave it 2.5. You gave it 4.5.
Oh yeah, look at that.
And that's pretty uncommon. Like there occasionally will be outliers, and I don't mean this as a dig at Tyler, but sometimes Tyler gives like crazy different ratings than like us three do, and that's kind
Yeah.
of funny sometimes. Like we'll give it 4s or 4.5, and the Tyler's like, it was a 2. We're like, what? Did you watch the same movie?
Yeah, and then we
But-
spend a day explaining to him what he didn't get. I'm just kidding,
Right.
Tyler.
But like this, it was kind of refreshing though. Like that each of us had different takes on it. Like I think the comments that I shared were mostly positive because I did enjoy the movie, but there were just things about it that brought it down. It was just too depressing for me, and it was nice to hear Sam's perspective. That he didn't like it as much, and that's okay. I think this was a fun conversation for us to have differing opinions.
Sure.
Yeah, I think some of my favorite movies don't always end on a happy note, and this one did actually. I mean, he gets out of prison, he rehabilitates himself, and he ends up with his wife in the end. She's waiting there for him, but at the same time, like I don't know, I just love the stylistic approach of it. After we've seen so many war movies, I really like this one, and I probably will watch it again. But then again, I gave a completely different rating for Uncut Gems than you guys did. I love that movie, and I
It's one
felt
of
like
the worst movies I've ever seen.
yeah, well,
So bad.
most of the country disagrees with
I
you.
think I gave it. Lance loves to do that. Loves to do that. Oh well, it's got an 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm like, I don't care. I have my opinion still.
For sure.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. It's the
No, I
only
know.
weight I have to stand on. It's the only leg I have. What I'm gonna say? Well, I like it, and you suck. No, I'm gonna tell you the rest
I
of
mean,
the country loves it.
We all know
And
most of
you
the
still
country
suck.
hated BVS, and I loved it. So I'm contrarian
Yeah.
sometimes. I get it.
So I think all this is proving is that you're usually wrong.
All right.
Just kidding.
I know.
Just
I know.
kidding. So I'm looking at the headlines here. There was only one I want to talk about. Max, do you want to go ahead and change the banner? Make it easy.
Yes,
for when you're-
sir.
So there was one thing I really wanted to hit on, and that is Avengers Endgame is about to lose their title as the highest grossing movie of all time.
How's that?
Avatar has been released in China, and it is doing very well.
What?
I think all of them
James
think-
Cameron. James Cameron's such a punk.
I think all of them are like, oh, Avatar 2 is out because we've been promised it for the last 10 years. So they all think it's the second one. And nobody remembers the first one, so it might as well be the second one. So
it might be nice to get a primer so that we remember the first movie by the time the sequels ever show up.
Yeah.
Seriously, more than 10 years in between these movies. That's
I mean,
pretty
how
bad.
long can Sam Whitworth wear tights, or Sam Worthington wear tights? You can't.
Well, he's not really
filming
in anything. No, dude, it was funny when he got cast, he was on this like rise to fame, but people didn't like him that much, so then he stopped getting roles. So
well, he did Terminator
Salvation. Yeah, you're right.
Salvation, and his career just went bloop.
No, it's because he's been in tights for the last decade. He's been doing Avatar movies for the last decade.
And he's probably just screaming, please, James, release the movie. I need to eat this
Release the Kraken. He was in Clash of the Titans too, or Wrath of the Titans.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That one also sucked.
Man on a Ledge. I never saw that one, but I don't think it did very well. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, though, dude, if Marvel says, you know what? F this. We're going to re-release Endgame at a theaters. Nothing else is out anyway.
They own both of them. They don't care.
Yeah,
Disney owns Avatar and Endgame. They don't care.
Yeah, you're right.
But
either way, they make money.
Yeah, they did release it. They released it with those extra scenes at the Endgame to push it over the top because it gave it some good press and things like that. I went to that. I got a free poster for going to their special screening of Avengers. Yeah, if they release an Infinity War and Endgame back to back in theaters,
oh, dude, I'd go.
I'll go.
I would go.
That'd be worth
100%.
Sounds like Mike Majors is going to go with us.
I feel like those are two really different movies.
Infinity War and Endgame?
They're very different movies, don't you think?
Sam's kidding. He's got to be kidding.
I'm not
because
kidding.
they're literally one long movie.
No, they're not.
There is a breaker in the middle, Ant-Man.
No, yeah. I don't think they're one long movie. I think Infinity War has its own personal feel, and then Endgame is not just a sequel to Infinity War. It's the keystone. It's the end cap on the whole Marvel MCU up to that point. And so they do like the grand tour through all of the fantastic moments in the history of the MCU.
Yeah.
That's what the time crimes are, right? The time heist.
But I don't understand why you don't want to watch one after the other.
I just, it's a long sit probably, but they are both very good, but it's like, I would not, I feel like they're so different that I don't know that I would enjoy sitting through both of them back to back.
Oh, I've done it and I love it.
Yeah.
Last time my wife went out of town, I did it. Probably going to do it when she goes out of town next. It's just one of my favorite things to do. Watching those back to back as loud as possible.
But you're doing it wrong because Ant-Man is supposed to be in the middle.
Yeah, I'm not going to watch Ant-Man.
Yeah,
Ant-Man and the Wasp was fine, but
it wasn't as good. It kind of felt like Infinity War was awesome, and then they gave us Ant-Man and Wasp, and I love Paul Rudd, and it was just kind of a letdown. At least after Endgame, they gave us the second Spider-Man. The second Spider-Man was awesome.
Ant-Man and the Wasp was a situation where the sequel was definitely not better than the first one.
Yeah. But that's pretty much the only thing, except that this week Justice League comes out on the 18th, right, Max?
Yeah, Thursday.
And what is Justice League about?
It's Zack Snyder's cut. Max is much more excited about this than I am. Our show is Falcon and Winter Soldier. We're going to talk about Justice League. He's much more excited about this than I am.
I'm excited about it.
Dude, this is a big deal. Like, even if you don't love the DC movies, this is a big deal that a director is getting to like basically redo a movie that he
This is a mulligan. This is
Yeah,
Zack
but-
Snyder's mulligan.
I still don't think it's going to be that good.
It may not be. I'm not
Yeah.
expecting it to be incredible.
Mike
But-
Majors, I love that idea. Mike from the
Yeah,
Grizzly
let's
Geek.
do it. Let's do a podcast extravaganza.
Well, I think he was talking about going to the theaters.
for
Yeah.
Infinity War. and
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be
and then
fun.
when it's over, we can podcast live from the lobby.
to
There
give
you
another review on Endgame, as if I haven't talked about it enough on this show. I'm more excited for Falcon and Winter Soldier. I think WandaVision was such an achievement for Marvel, and
Yeah.
I'm
Falcon and Winter
excited.
Soldier looks like a lot of fun. It looks like Marvel business as usual.
The
And that'll be
Sorry,
fun.
guys. I have to tell you, I was reading this really great theory on the Marvel Studios Reddit, and they were talking about Baron Zemo. Baron Zemo's design.
Yeah.
His costume design. Specifically his mask.
He looks
and-
comic accurate.
Yeah, but why would he pick that particular mask in story? He's saying, and the theory was that it is a mockery of the Avengers because it looks like Thanos.
Could be.
Yeah, it has kind of the raisin lines in it.
It's a fun idea. It could be.
I always thought Thanos looked like what are the raisins that dressed
The
up?
California raisins.
Yeah, I always thought that Thanos looked like a mix between those and Homer Simpson.
And I'm really keeping my fingers crossed that ends up being the case, because that's a really cool theory right there.
Well, I'm excited about this show because we've seen from set photos that they visit some set locations that are iconic in X-Men history. So I'm thinking that this show we may see a little bit
Alkali Lake.
Mm-hmm. We may see.
Yeah,
a
I'm
little
not holding my
push forward
breath
towards
for
some
anything.
mutants.
WandaVision burned me in that regard. I'm not expecting any
Dude,
X-Men crossover type stuff.
Ralph Boner, The Return.
the director said, "Don't get upset. That is
About
not the last we've seen of Ralph Boner."
I'm
I
not-
honestly think.
all
think
down
he's-
for a boner joke.
I honestly think that he is Pietro from an alternate universe in Witness Protection.
maybe.
That's the only way Marvel could redeem themselves. That's the only way. I wouldn't be surprised if he's I wouldn't be surprised if he's in Doctor Strange.
We'll see. I'm just trying not to let myself get into the fan theories again because it overhyped me.
The director said that they did it that way to troll Iron Man 3. What they did with
No, it
It's
wasn't that they were
literally the
trolling.
same vibe. That's
It
why
wasn't
it pissed
trolling.
me off.
It wasn't trolling. It was an inspiration. He said he liked the Mandarin reveal so much that he wanted to do the same thing with Ralph Boner.
But it was a bad reveal.
Yeah, it was total
horrible.
disappointment. It was total disappointment.
I think something's gonna happen. I don't think that's the last we've seen of
Boner.
Evan Peters.
Boner.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. We could
so-
see as much more. We could see as much of Evan Peters as we see of Trevor Slattery.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you brought up the Marvel shows. We've talked about them a little bit on this week. I sent a text to you and my brother Lance, but I think it'd be fun really quick to talk about this. So let's go to Sam first. So I was asking Lance and my brother Sam, now that WandaVision has come out, what would you say your favorite Marvel TV show has been so far? Netflix, Hulu, whatever. What has been your favorite Marvel show that's come out so far?
Daredevil.
Okay, I agree. That's my favorite as well. Followed
Isn't
by
that what I
Punisher.
said?
Yeah, it is. We all agree.
Yeah.
Well, mine was followed by Punisher, and then I think WandaVision would be third.
Mine was followed by Luke Cage season
Excuse me.
1.
The
And then
first half of
WandaVision
season 1.
and then Punisher. Yeah, with I can't say his name. Help me out, Sam. Mahershala Ali.
Mahershala Ali.
I don't know why I can never say his name. So that's one of his scenes in Luke Cage were some of the best that Marvel TV ever produced.
His full name is Mahershala Hashbaz Ali.
Nice.
How do you remember that?
Because it's from the Bible.
Oh,
Book of Isaiah. Isaiah
So-
is commanded to name one of his sons Mahershala Hashbaz. which means destruction is imminent.
Oh, that's uplifting. Well, that brings us, we're done, right? That brings us to the end of our show. We are the Couch Crunchers. My name is Lance. Below me is Max. And to my, are they seeing it the same way that we see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
You're right.
He's on my, okay. On my screen, you're on my left.
Yeah, but I'm to your right.
Yeah.
I'm to your right.
This guy over here, this is Sam. I hate this, dude. I hate how the camera flips everything. I have to like go through like Doctor Strange level quantum. I think you should just sing that song for real. I think that would be even better if you just did a video of you singing that song. Put on a tutu and
that's a good idea. That's a good idea, Lance.
Holding a dodgeball. So that brings us to the end of our show. Go check us out on Facebook, Twitter, couchcrunchers.com. We are live every Friday at 7 p.m. on YouTube. We follow our good friends at the Grizzled Geek, who are also on every Friday at 6 p.m. And our friends over at Modern Comic Mayhem on Saturday nights. So go check our friends out. Check out Pop Bonsai and Comic Exposure as well. And until next time, keep on geeking on.